everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Anime Movie Podcast. With your host, I'm Joe.
I'm Kat.
Today we're talking about Redline, directed by Takeshi Koike. And this movie came out in either 2009, 2010, or 2011, depending on what you look at. It debuted at a film festival, I don't remember which one, in 2009. I think it's like Lorcan or something. And then it got a theatrical release in 2010, and the dubbed, I guess, happened in 2011. And this movie's fucking insane.
You just kind of have to let this movie happen.
Yeah.
And let it wash over you between actual plot points.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that there's not a heavy, like, you know, you're going to be out of your element in this one because there's no themes.
No, this is thematically empty. What the fuck is this movie trying to say?
It's trying to say, no, it's just trying to give you a fucking good ride, Kat, on the red line. It is crazy. A little spoiler-free synopsis. We're following the main character, who is a man named Sweet JP, and he's a racer, and he is trying to compete in the red line
He's
race.
a racer and he's like trying to win a race.
Yeah, he's trying to win a race called the Red Line, which is the most popular race in the galaxy. And it's taking place on a planet called Robo World.
So it kind of sounds like the Red Line is sort of like the final of a series of sort of tournaments.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's taking place on Robo World, where like the grand champion is going to be crowned, and the people of the elite of Robo World do not want this to happen. So there's that drama. There's like two plots. If there's two plots. Cat kind of like air quotes plots.
There might be three plots.
Yeah, there's three plots. Okay, there's a little romance plot with JP and one of his fellow racers. There is the plot of who's going to win the red line race. And then there's the plot of Robo World doing everything in its power trying to destroy the racers and seemingly their own planet.
Is that a spoiler?
I don't know. The people of Robo World don't want this race to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like this isn't a movie that you watch for the plot, I don't think.
Well, then what does it have? If it doesn't have plot to watch and it doesn't have thematics.
Look, I'm a simple man.
This movie has plot.
It has plot. And it's a very simple plot.
But then it also adds, it's like it thinks that it's too simple to just have the plot of the race and those stakes aren't high enough. And so it throws in these other plots and there's just a lot going on.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in terms of the plots as well as the animation. The animation in this movie is bonkers.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. It does get stylistic in some sections that are very interesting. And there's something very comic book about it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of the shadows are solid black.
Yeah.
And you've got these thick black lines that remind me of sort of like classic comic books. I'm dog sitting right now, so if you hear a tip tap, those are some nails on my hardwood floor.
Yeah.
But ignore him. And that was pretty cool. There were parts of that I loved watching. But then even within that, there was so much going on. This is kind of like a Star Wars universe where there's a whole galaxy of different planets with different races and alien creatures and things like that. And there's also like a little bit of a space cowboy feel to it. You definitely get that like canteen feeling in a couple of moments, but it's also like
I feel like it's like it has all of the creatures of Vampire Hunter D, but just kicked up the animation like 100 times and made it so much trippier and crazy.
Yeah, and the animation is unusual because it's not very smooth.
No.
in that sense that like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure can sometimes be, especially in the earlier seasons, where sometimes there's just no movement from somebody and then somebody else is moving, but it's kind of choppy. You can kind of like almost see like a flip book, see the moments of where the motion changes.
Yeah, I was gonna liken this to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure too, but like as crazy and bizarre as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I feel like this is like a step beyond that too, because like I know what you're saying where it's not very smooth, but I feel like a lot of it is very fluid and limbs change lengths. And have you ever watched a show called Super Jail?
No.
It was a show that was on Adult Swim, and it was just all about crazy, insane animation. And like the plot was very flimsy, but the whole point of the show, basically, I would say, was at the end of each episode, there was a crazy genocide death scene, and it would get horrendous and crazy looking. And I felt like Super Jail when I was watching this. I felt like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I felt like Vampire Hunter D, but all of it was just kicked up a notch. Like this movie is relentless as well. Like the animation is relentless. The craziness is relentless. Everything, like, I mean, the title, everything is pushed to the red line. Like it's pedal to the metal, bonkers, in your face craziness.
Yeah, I think that's about accurate. And I understand what you mean about the fluidity of some things where it almost looks like characters are kind of like bubbling over like a boiling pot, and it has that kind of fluidity. But then when people are actually speaking and are kind of in front of the camera and the subject, then it's kind of jittery.
Yeah, almost. I agree. I was going to say one of the things that I wrote down as well with this movie is like some of the lip syncing and ADR stuff is a little rough.
Yeah, it can be a little rough. And I think that kind of plays towards this this vibe that it's going for that feels kind of 80s or early 90s. Like it doesn't feel like it came out in, 2009. There's also, there's something about this that's very like Around the World in 80 Days and Mario Kart.
Well, definitely
and
Mario Kart.
Sin City.
Yeah. Okay, that's...
And Star Wars. Like those are some of the big things that I saw in this. Yeah, because there's definitely some Mario Kart. It does feel like somebody made a movie out of a video game with some wild cutscenes. But the Around the World in 80 Days thing is just these sort of over-the-top characters and these caricatures of these different people who are involved, sort of in the race, and you just get these like brief moments with them. And that also made me think about mockumentary. Like this felt like a weird anime mockumentary about a space-aged race.
I do have to say there is like a long segment where they're profiling all of the racers in the Redline race.
They have little backstory packages.
And that was so helpful.
So helpful.
That was unbelievably helpful because like there's a lot of characters in this.
Yeah.
And a lot of times me and Kat are like, oh, what's that person's name when we're watching it together, or we have to look it up afterwards. Not this time. This time I got like hey, this is Machine Head. Here's his story. This is what he does. And you're like, oh, okay. This is like the easiest note writing I've ever had to do.
Yeah, but it took a long time for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a bit of build-up before we got to that point, but still, that scene, very helpful. I wish every movie had that.
Right, yeah. I mean, this scene starts, or this film starts in a very similar way to Blame, in that it starts throwing you in the middle of the action before it kind of does much world building outside of this action moment, and you get a lot of names and a lot of characters really quickly, and I was like, oh no.
Not this again.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that this did it better than Blame?
Yeah, I think it did better than Blame by making up for it by, because later when you actually hear all these racers' names, you kind of realize, oh, I didn't really need to know all the racers' names in that last race, because a lot of them you don't ever hear about again. So it makes sense to only really announce the names of the ones that you see later.
Yeah, the ones that are in the beginning, the opening scene race. Like I didn't bother writing down any of the names except for the main character. And I felt largely because like none of them were going to matter later on. And if they were going to matter later on, they'd get reintroduced. But I felt like this definitely did a better job than Blame, mainly because you could see everybody and they all looked different and they all had their own attributes. And you kind of get little character moments from each of them in the opening scene too.
I don't know. I mean, I 100% did it better than Blame. But I do think that everything was happening so fast in the beginning, I couldn't really take it in. I couldn't really take in the characters. I think that it did okay with kind of characterizing JP. But
I literally wrote down opening scene, already hooked.
Jesus.
It was just visually interesting. I mean, it was interesting to watch. And I was just like, what the hell was happening? Like, there's so much bizarre craziness happening in this that I was just like, I gotta keep watching this. This is insanity.
I got quite bored at some point, and I think maybe it was being kind of overwhelmed visually and with so much going on that doesn't really matter towards the rest of the movie. And then not really having any kind of thematic to hold on to or think about while it was going through. So I found my mind kind of wandering, kind of wanting to be somewhere else or do something else. But I don't think this is a bad movie, especially with how cool some of the stylistic stuff is and some of the sound design, which was done really well. Sometimes the music was a bit hot and kind of competed with dialogue.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a very loud movie.
It is a very loud
This isn't a movie that you watch when you're like, I think I'm going to chill out tonight. I'm going to watch Redline. Like, no.
Yeah, and I think that's the mood I was in, watching it. And so maybe if I watched it in a different mood, I'd like it more, but I also don't see myself watching this again anytime soon.
You gotta crack open a Mountain Dew before you watch. That's why I enjoyed it. I had a Mountain Dew Major Melon while I was watching.
That's what I did wrong.
This movie took 7 years to make happen, and it's Koike's debut as a director.
Okay, maybe that's why it doesn't feel like a 2009 film.
Yeah, maybe.
Because the idea started in the 90s.
It's a 2000 movie.
Yeah, I mean, I found myself kind of wishing it was a series. Because I think this would be a really cool series. And I'd like to know a bit more about the different racers and about the world. Because there's a lot thrown at you. It also had moments that reminded me of Akira. A little bit. And I wanted to know more. I think it didn't explain a lot of that stuff very much. It didn't really care about explaining it, but some of it was just fucking bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I would have been more engaged and would have cared more if I knew more about how any of that worked.
I guess you're going to have to wait till spoilers to reveal what you're like.
And it's complaints that I usually hear you say about movies. And I have a feeling you're going to have a different opinion from me, which will be interesting.
I have a couple of things that I was like, I don't really understand this. And there's some stuff that I'm like, I wish they would have expanded on this. But I went into this movie with the expectation that this is what I'm going to get. Like, it's a popcorn movie that you're just like, whatever. Like, oh, cool, fast cars. Oh, cool, that guy's hair is cool. Hot chicks. And it's a dumb movie.
Yeah.
It's incredibly dumb. Like,
but the fact that it tries to have these like political undertones of this, world that it's built up in 3 seconds is bizarre to me, and unnecessary. And if you're going to go the like dumb movie, just throw popcorn in your mouth while you're watching it kind of thing, there's no reason to have that extra element that...
I think that we're hinting at, like, we're on the same page about this one specific thing that we're like, why was that a thing?
Right.
Which we'll talk to in spoilers. The one thing that I said in my notes is that I liked the voice acting largely. Like nobody's voice annoyed me. Like there was some crazy over the top, like you're a monster type of voice acting.
That's very Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah. The one thing that I wish is, so JP is the main character and he has a sidekick who is his mechanic and partner. And I wish they switched voices because I thought his partner, his name is Frisbee. I thought Frisbee's voice was way cooler than JP's. And JP looked cooler than Frisbee.
But JP was so much more energetic. And Frisbee's voice was so slow and smooth. I mean, he constantly sounds like he's sitting at a bar sipping a nice whiskey.
That's kind of how I wish JP was.
Okay.
He can I feel like that voice actor could have kicked it up when he needed to. You know, I would have liked to seen Frisbee's voice actor's read of JP. I think his voice was just so much cooler than JP's. JP's was very oh, hey, how are you?
I didn't think he sounded like a surfer.
No, that doesn't sound like a surfer.
It did. Sound like a stoner surfer.
Okay, well, we'll just have to disagree.
Sure.
Anything else before we get into spoiler territory?
Nah, let's do it. Let's spoil it.
They wouldn't spoil this, right?
Oh,
They
God,
can't spoil this.
spoilers,
Right?
don't
Spoiler talk, anime movie podcast, spoiler talk.
Okay. Let me try and guess the disconnect here with you.
I've got several, Joe.
Well, my main disconnect, and I think that you'll probably agree with me.
Okay.
I don't understand why the people of Robo World did not want this race to happen and why they're so militantly against it.
I'm pretty sure that was explained and that they have secret illegal war things they're not supposed to have. And they don't want that exposed to the world.
Yeah, but can't they just hide that? They can have the race there and just
This is such a weird approach to this, because that's not what bugged me. What bugged me is when a planet wants so badly not to have this race there, why would you have it there? Yeah. Is this like the Olympics? Like those countries agree they want it. They want people to come in and spend money and have the Olympics there, but was there no agreement about this? Did they never discuss it? They didn't say that the king of Robo World was into the idea, but the military wasn't. The general was super not into it, which would have made way more sense.
Yeah, everybody on Robo World seems to be on the same page of fuck this race. They're willing to sabotage and blow up their own planet, it seems in order to fuck over these racers.
There must have been other planets that would want this, want this race to happen there.
Maybe it's been at all of the other planets and they're we gotta do it on Robo World now.
Or there's a lottery system and you never know. Or there's a council that decides and they're trying to make it as dangerous as possible to make it exciting, and they knew that the race would get fucked up on Robo World. That was so weird to me. It was so bizarre.
Yeah, there really was no reason for it to be on Robo World other than to heighten the conflict and danger, I guess, of the race.
It never even occurred to me to be why don't they want it there? I'd just be why would you go? You're so unwanted.
Well, it's just well, yeah, you're so unwanted, but then also, why are they so unwanted?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying is that's not what bothers me at all. I'm fine with that. I'm totally okay with them not wanting this race there. It seems like it would tear apart their countryside. Not that that's a beautiful landscape.
Yeah, I was gonna say Robo World is it's like an infinite featureless plain. I don't know whether the beauty of this planet's gonna get destroyed.
Well, there are some cliffs and valleys and things, but yeah, it's a weird gray desert of cliffs and valleys. It doesn't look like they have water there.
Also, it doesn't look like a good place to have a race. There's a lot of rough terrain.
You're right. That was unrealistic.
Yeah. I mean, think about driving a car on that. I mean, you get really fucked up.
So the other thing...
You just disregard that?
Yes, I'm disregarding.
They're not driving SUVs on this thing. They're driving souped up Trans Ams.
These these ships became cars became fucking rockets and were able to like fall out of the sky without getting harmed.
Yeah.
And there were so many other bigger questions than that terrain being good for the cars or not.
I also love when this is jumping way ahead, but like there's a disintegration ray in this movie, and they like are always threatening to use it. They wanted to use it initially on the racers, but they were sabotaged by Lynchman and Johnny Booyah, who are bounty hunters, and they are in the race. So by the time they finally get the disintegration ray cannon up and running, they've unleashed a bioweapon called Funky Boy, which is incredible. And so they use the cannon on Funky Boy, and it like nukes a whole part of this planet. Their race cars are flying all over the place, but JP is just like standing next to it, and he's like covering Sanoshi, and he's like not moving. It's just like a little windy. His hair's blowing a little bit. It's just like,
I didn't get the impression that he was that close to the blast.
how is he not that close? I mean, the whole fucking thing was getting nuked, it looked like.
Well, I mean, it was a huge area, though, and there was a ton of stuff spread out. I couldn't tell that he was, like, in the blast zone.
Oh, it seemed to me like he was in the blast zone, and it was just like, he's fine. It's like, what?
The things you bring up about this movie are so
Okay, well,
strange.
what do you got? What do you got, Kat?
I want to know who the fuck this little Redline princess is. This magical princess.
She's the princess of the world where... Oh, what's their
Where
names?
Boy and Boss
Yes,
Boss.
Superboy, Boing. The two hot chicks. The hot chick racers.
Who
Yeah,
are magical
Super
but
Boys.
don't use their magic.
My notes on this is Super Boyns, two sexy lady racers.
Yes.
Because that's pretty much their characterization. They have magic.
Yeah, they have magic, but they don't use it for the race. But then there was this weirdness where they're like, well, the race is called the Redline, but then they also made it sound like that ship that the princess was on was also the Redline, like that Redline was another concept other than just this race. And I was getting pretty confused about that.
No, I don't think the ship was called the Red Line. That was just like where they housed all of the ships and then dropped them into the race. And then that ship was also creating the finish line. I'm fairly certain that the ship had a different name. And it looks like the princess just wanted to have the race happen because she wanted the Super Boyns to win. Because that's where they're from, the planet that she's the princess of.
But there was nothing weird to you about this like 4-year-old magical princess being waited upon by all of these.
Dude, compared to everything else that's going on in this movie, I can forgive the princess of a planet like wanting to facilitate the Red Line happening.
I got the impression that they always did that was like their planet's thing, or she was like the princess of Redline. And
well, I mean, they call Machine Head the king of Redline, but
well,
that's just because
he
wins. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember them calling the lady the princess of Redline, but maybe they're calling her that because she's helping facilitating it happen.
But you got the impression that she just volunteered for this one?
I feel like she probably makes it happen for other ones, maybe.
Back when she was 2 years old.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Are you ageist? Why are you judging the princess? Okay.
Looked like a toddler. It was bizarre.
Dude, there's a fucking gorilla head dirty cop in this, and you're like, oh, there's a 4-year-old princess? I've seen 4-year-old princesses in movies.
Who's planning the race?
Yes.
Who planned the course?
Yes. Have you ever seen...
Gorilla Cop didn't bug me.
The gorilla cop? Have you ever seen the machine head before? The Thanos-looking dude that's connected?
Have I ever seen it before?
Yeah, have you in any other movie?
He's a cyborg.
Have you ever seen that in any other movie?
A person connecting to machinery and driving it? Yes.
Have you ever seen a gorilla cop in any other movie?
No, but my imagination could stretch.
I've seen very young princesses in other movies.
Not like this.
Well, we also don't know if
Like,
he's
how
4
weird is
years
it that
old.
like a magical princess comes into like a racing movie? Like that's what's especially weird about it for me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Princess Peach?
She's not
Mario
She's
Kart?
not a magical princess.
Yes, she is. She's a damsel in distress.
So that doesn't make her magic.
Okay, well, she comes from a land of magic.
Like, isn't it unusual though? Because I mean, who is this movie for?
For people like me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
don't tend to think much about magical princesses or care about them.
Well,
So it's just an unusual character to have. You know, you could have not had her in this movie, and it would change nothing about this movie.
Except that she's the one that facilitated the entire thing happening.
But it could have just existed. The raceway could have existed, and she could have not, and nobody would question it.
Yeah, well, you don't need JP in this movie either. Like, you could have had another.
Then it won't be a movie about him anymore.
You could have followed another racer.
Why are you so stuck on protecting this magical princess idea?
That's like the least.
Oh, come on.
That's like the least crazy thing that's happening in this.
For the person who said, I don't know, that terrain looks really rough for a race.
Yeah.
And you think, okay.
Dude, they come from a planet of magic, and then they have a princess. Like, I don't understand. Like Princess Leia comes from.
You're right. I love it now.
She's got the Force. She's a magical princess.
She's not a tiny floating magical princess who like runs a race. I really, really don't want to talk about it. We're gonna go absolutely nowhere.
There is a giant talking baby who's about to break a fucking what's her name's arm,
and that is one of the most bizarre things about that film.
Yeah, but you weren't like, this is bullshit. I can't believe in this fucking giant baby. You just accept that it's a thing.
Okay, accept it's a thing.
Thank you. Like, I don't know why you can't suspend your disbelief about like a small, tiny princess lady.
I can't believe you can't suspend your disbelief about the terrain being too rough for a car race on this fucking Robo World planet.
I'm just thinking about JP's Trans Am. He put a lot of money into that car. What else doesn't make sense for you?
I don't really know why the bioweapon has to come into it. I think it kind of motivates the idea that the military of RoboWorld wanted people not to come onto their planet. You know, clearly it's especially to hide this bioweapon that's illegal. But when it first comes up, they're like, "Oh, I know we had that dysfunctional mechanical issue with this massive disintegration cannon that we have. However, it has to be back online. How would you like to use it?" And then it's like, "Oh, it just so happens that this bioweapon has escaped." And then he's like, screw it. We're not going to do this like cannon on the racers. We're going to do it on Funky Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I thought it was like, what happened? They've just killed Funky Boy now. And we're just back to the race. Like, what is going on? And then, they had a moment where it like resurged and they had to use the cannon again. But just, it was, the pacing of it was so weird. Just some things that just totally didn't flow, where you're just like, wait, stop for a second. We need to do this like Funky Boy thing. And it's like, oh, no, back to the race. Oh, wait, no, we're going to go back to Funky Boy just for a second. And I was like, okay.
I feel like Funky Boy was a bioweapon that they were working on. It wasn't quite ready yet. And wasn't it one of the racers that crashed into it to unleash it?
Yeah,
sure
I was pretty confused about how they managed to do that, because I think it was kind of underground. And
yeah, there was also some other army that was trying to unleash Funky Boy, and then I think it was the Gorilla Cop racer who crashed into the underground and unleashed Funky Boy. And I think once Funky Boy was unleashed, that's when the king of Robo World was like, oh, fuck, we're not ready to have Funky Boy unleashed yet. He's going to run amok or whatever.
And then the colonel goes down to a place and becomes some wild creature.
Yeah, I felt like that didn't really turn into anything.
No.
Colonel Volton.
They just brought back Funky Boy for a second to kill it again. And you had those really weird moments where you're going down to this place that looks like it's alive inside, like it's vascular, which was especially weird to me since this is Robo World. I was kind of expecting more robotics.
Yeah, there's a lot of robotics, but it seems like their top weaponry is creatures.
Is biological.
Yeah, because Funky Boy looks like some kind of weird mutant dinosaur baby thing.
Kind of fetal.
And when Voltron is like, all right, I've been waiting to do this, and he becomes like a giant dinosaur looking thing, like a whale.
That has like a mouth and then another mouth. And
yeah, it has a mouth and then a face inside the mouth, which is his face. And then he just fucks up Funky Boy. But then he doesn't like try and fuck up the racers after that. Like it's just like he's there to destroy Funky Boy, but his main goal throughout the entire movie was like, I'm going to fuck up the racers.
Yeah.
And he just gets preoccupied with Funky Boy, I guess. And then he's like, all right, my work here is done. And he goes back to the king, and the king's like, what about the racers? He's like, oh, fuck. I forgot about the racers. That doesn't happen in the movie, but...
And I don't really get how they aren't able to stop it from happening. They seem to have a lot of military prowess.
How to stop the race from happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how either, because like as soon as the racers get dropped off onto Robo World, they're swarmed with like a hail of gunfire.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they avoid it because they're just floating. They're falling down to the earth. And like how armored are they? Like JP's Trans Am falls apart like 100 times into like smaller and smaller and smaller cars.
Yeah. I almost thought it shouldn't have counted that they weren't in a car anymore when they crossed the finish line. JP and Sonoshi.
I knew that it was going to come down to his hair.
I thought so too. Yeah, and I kind of like that they didn't make a big deal out of it being his hair. They didn't point it out, but you know it was his hair.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Did you have a favorite racer that wasn't JP?
I really liked Lynchman and Johnny Booyah. I really liked that. It was like a weird Batman and Robin situation where they were bounty hunters and they had to like infiltrate the giant disintegration cannon, and they had their own like weird separate mission. And I thought that their rapport was fun, and I thought that their race car was cool, and they just looked like Batman and Robin. And I think he even used like an old Batman from the 60s phrase where he called him, hey, good buddy, or whatever. It's just like, this is so weird. What about you? Who was your favorite racer? Aside from JP, if JP was even in the running.
I kind of liked Crab Sonoshi.
Yeah, why?
I kind of liked the idea that she'd been working so hard her entire life towards this, and that sort of hot girl who knows cars because she's worked in the shop with her dad. Mm-hmm. I kind of like that archetype when it's done in a non-annoying way. And I found her to be likable.
Yeah.
But let's talk for a second about the scene in the restaurant.
Okay.
Which takes up a surprising amount of time in this movie. And I guess, it functions to show JP's interest in Sonoshi and her interest back. And then it introduces us to two of the racers who we don't get a lot of other characterization of throughout the rest of it. So that's kind of their moment to shine. Mm-hmm. And then you just kind of see splashes of them later. But what's the lobster dude's name?
I don't know, but I fucking love that guy.
Because he was pretty entertaining.
Yeah. He was in the Robo World military, and he had a thing where like the angrier he got and the more he started crying, the stronger he got.
He's not the one I mean.
Oh, yeah, I have no idea what that person is.
Either. But I found him really entertaining. And then his racing partner, who has who kind of reminded me of Nightcrawler from X-Men. And he was blue and he had these like massive, I couldn't tell if it was ears or hair.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
But
actually, I think it was ears.
Okay, but that the military guy that you're mentioning, it was like the first one was like, just what's going on anymore?
Yeah, they're just like, oh, that's blah blah blah. Yep, he's starting to cry. Oh, you don't like when that happens because he's gonna beat the shit out of my partner. And that guy's just like the lobster dude's just like sitting there watching it all happen. Just like,
and they seem to kind of have a rivalry.
Yeah, I don't.
But then also not, because later the crying guy ended up being one of the people trying to stop the racers.
But I also felt like, did he say that he wanted to be in the race?
That's the thing, is I was confused about that because I wasn't sure if he was supposed to be in the race or if he was actually part of the Robo World military. I kind of got the impression that he was like a deserter or something of the Robo World military, but then later it seems like he's in it. So I have no idea.
I think he's in the Robo World military, but he's like a rogue and he acts on his own impulses. Because when he is beating the shit out of Lobster Man's partner, Nightcrawler dude, that's when
he says he's going to get court-martialed or something, right? So he's probably still part of the military.
Yeah, because that's when Voltron comes and Volton. Sorry, excuse me. It's when Colonel Volton comes and he like punches him. And he's like, get back here, you're fucking abandoning your post or whatever.
Right, okay.
And then when they're attacking the racers during the race, he actually abandons his post. And Volton is like, you're going to get executed for this. He's like, sorry, dude, sometimes you just got to fucking do it. I know it's wrong, but I want to fucking kill these guys or beat them or be in the race or something.
I just saw this and there's already things that are like going out of my head. And I think that shows some things about the movie that are not great, because this feels like having a wild, vivid dream, and there's so much that happens and so much of it that's bizarre that it's kind of hard to keep in your head. For me,
I'll agree.
Least.
Yeah, I completely forgot about Volton becoming the giant dinosaur guy until you brought it up, and I was like, oh yeah, that did go nowhere.
This movie also ends really suddenly.
Yeah, it does, but it's hilarious. I thought it was hilarious how it ended.
Like, is it, I mean, so what happens is at the final stretch, the magical princess is like, oh, here's the finishing line. Before the finishing line, you can't see where they're going to be going. It's going to be like straight up this building, and the announcers are like, they can never do this. This doesn't work. And then it cuts to the fucking magical princess, and they're like, how is this going to happen? And she's like, just watch. And then she makes this like road appear and the finish line appear. And then it is, what is his name? Machine Head going full throttle. And at this point, Sonoshi is in the car with JP, because her ship's been destroyed and she has the dream of seeing the finish line and he has the dream of winning. So they combine their dreams as love should, whatever. And and then in the final moments, JP's car has been completely destroyed and he and Sonoshi are just like flying through the air. And there's that moment we talked about where his hair wins the race ahead of Machine Head. And then they kiss in the floating pretty ether, and then it just cuts to love.
Yeah.
Just love written across the screen. Yeah. Does this mean that like you can win any race if you love hard enough? Like, is that what this movie's about?
No. I thought it was just goofy. That was just so silly and goofy how it ended, where it's just like love, and then it's like the end. It's just like, what?
And I suppose you were charmed by that.
Yeah, how do you not find that hilarious? It's just like so stupid.
Sometimes people think stupid things are just stupid.
Yeah.
Instead of being funny.
Okay. I don't think you have it in you to enjoy just like just dumb action movie.
Sure, I do.
Name one.
John Wick.
Okay. John Wick is a good, stupid action movie. I think you like John Wick because his dog gets killed and he kills like 100,000 people. You're like, yeah, that's right.
You're just trying to find some way I could possibly have it in me. I see. Okay.
What if the king of Robo World killed JP's dog? Would you like this movie?
No. I might like it less. I might be like, fuck, they did the killing a dog thing? So cheap. I hate it.
Oh, man. I did one thing that I really loved about this movie was anytime that they were in the King of Robo World's lair, there was this like obscenely evil organ music playing.
Yeah, that organ music was very noticeable.
It was over the top and so funny to me. And it was just like, oh, yeah. Like, if you needed to know who the villains were, just like, it's so over the top.
I do remember another issue I had.
Okay.
I don't understand how Frisbee's plan with this mafiosa makes money. Because it sounds like they have the same plan every time, which would mean that JP's actions would get very predictable in these races.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. Like every race, it seems like JP is supposed to like take the lead and then the bets change. I guess they have like a live betting system where they can change their bets and be like, oh, well, I'm going to bet on JP now. And then as soon as all the money comes in for JP, he like explodes his car. I mean, that's also a very, if you do it too many times, people are going to be like, what the fuck is up with this guy? And also, how would he keep qualifying? Because he's always losing.
Exactly.
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. Can't answer that one.
Case closed.
Can't answer that
Case
one.
closed because it's left open.
Good point. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of like fixed fights things, but it looks like we have flashbacks of JP's past where he has won things. Like he won a couple of things. You see like him.
So much of this movie is just him crashing and losing.
This only happens twice.
He gets into 3 crashes.
Yeah, one of them was just during it with a different car, not even in a race.
I know, but like, have you ever watched a movie about like somebody who races and just every single time you see them in a vehicle, they crash it? Like, I was just like, does this guy know how to drive cars?
Okay. We only see him actually crash once with the purpose of fixing the race. It's the first race. That's when...
And he's not aware of it. He's not aware that
he thinks he's going to win that race. Yeah. And then Frisbee has a bomb strapped to it, which is like, wow, what a fucked up situation.
Yeah, that is a fucked up situation.
So Frisbee straps a bomb to JP's car in order to fix the race. So that's the first crash. The second crash, it's just JP on another like test car and he crashes. There's another crash that you actually forgot about when he's riding his motorcycle.
No, I didn't forget. I told you there are 3 crashes. You said there were 2.
Well, then there's another one because he crashes his car in the last race.
Doesn't everybody
explode his car on purpose? So he crashed. I mean, that's definitely.
I think everybody crashed at the same time, though. That's less like because of his driving, and more because shit was just going off.
Well, then the first race isn't because of his driving; it's because of a bomb.
Okay.
I mean, if you're going to throw that caveat in there, that's what. That's
fine. Then there were 4.
Okay. But yeah, like there are flashbacks of him winning races. It looks like there is a flashback of him with Frisbee like holding a big trophy. So he has to have somewhat of a skill. Maybe this is the first time he's throwing the match or fixing the race.
Yeah, it just seems like every time he gets into a vehicle, he crashes it in this movie.
Okay. But yeah, I wonder if this is the first time that they are doing the fixing with the race.
Or at least that Frisbee is. Because I don't think JP's in on it.
Yeah. And I think when he's in the hospital and Frisbee shows up with a bunch of cash and he's like kind of turns it down. I don't know. Yeah. Do you think that he's in on it?
No.
I could see it going either way.
I mean, and when JP's telling Sonoshi about it, in that the thing that actually ended up getting him in jail seemed to be something else that he wasn't in on, that Frisbee was, and he ended up taking the rap.
Oh wait, yeah, because they do. He did go to jail for fixing a thing.
But he didn't know that Frisbee was doing the fixing.
Yes, but that would mean that this isn't the first time that they're doing the fix.
Yeah, but it really seems like JP didn't know, and then later on, you'd think that JP would have caught on, but later on, when Frisbee decides to fight back against the mafioso and is like, no, I want this for him. I don't want to do it to him this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like JP definitely isn't expecting the explosion to happen. He's trying to win and thinks that he can win. So I don't think he knows about the
fixins,
about the detonator.
Yeah. I don't know.
So let's see. Love is good. Cheating is bad.
Cheating gets
Bioweapons are bad.
Cheating gets you nowhere except for extremely rich.
I see. Yeah. Good point.
I've been watching so many anime about like fixed fights and fixed races like recently. So I was like, oh man, not another one of these.
I really did enjoy some of the the moments in the sound design where the music just completely dropped out, and then you'd have just a couple of sounds that would normally be very quiet suddenly be the only thing that you can hear. And I thought those were really effective, and it is like that in those moments where things almost slow down and you can hear your own heartbeat or your own breath. And I almost wanted to stay in some of those for longer, and then it would just like crash back into just absolute mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
But they did that enough to make it sort of like a pattern. You know, you knew it was a thing that happened, but not so much that they overdid it. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, there were times where, you know, JP's realizing that like he's just like floating above something and his car's about to crash, but it has that kind of like Saving Private Ryan PTSD high-pitched frequency noise moment happening.
I don't remember any high-pitched frequency. It went real quiet.
There was one where it was high-pitched.
Where you had like a ringing?
Yeah. Like shell shock type of thing. And he's just like, oh, it's wee.
But there are a couple of moments where, you know, somebody just took a turn really hard and it looked like they were going to crash or something with Sanoshi in the first race. And it just suddenly is a close-up of her. Things slow down a little bit and you just hear her breath. And then the music like crashes back in.
Yeah, when that music crashes back in, though, it's jarringly loud.
Oh, for sure.
Which is why I was like, dude, this is a fucking loud-ass movie.
But this whole movie is jarring.
Yeah. It's nonstop. Fucking relentless Redline. Pedal to the metal.
Jeez.
Yeah, it really does like beat you over the head with like just relentless craziness happening. Even like the quiet moments, like that dinner scene, or when JP is laying in that field and just kind of looking up at the stars. Those moments are so brief, but they also are still kind of chaotic.
Yeah. Like
you don't get a moment to breathe with this.
Yeah, and then you just get teased with the galactic political undercurrents going on.
Whose planet would you like to see more about?
None of them.
You wouldn't want to see anything about the Gorilla Cop's planet?
No.
Why not?
I don't want gorilla cops.
He's a crooked gorilla cop.
That doesn't make it better. You want to be on the crooked gorilla cop planet?
I don't want to be on it. I want to know more about it.
I guess I'd go to like magical hot chick land.
Yeah, you would. Just to learn more about it and like what the world is like. I
mean, magic and hot chicks, it sounds okay, right?
So you can get more of a backstory for this movie?
So we're going to find out what that fucking magical princess is about.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know why, but I want it. I feel like the Gorilla Cop could have his own movie. Just
what?
Being a gorilla cop.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No.
You wouldn't watch a movie about a gorilla cop that's a crooked cop? Then maybe he learns the errors of his ways and takes down some crooked mafiosos?
No. I feel like it could be a weird Adult Swim
Yeah.
tune.
Yes.
And I wouldn't want to watch it.
What a shame.
I would happily encourage others who would enjoy it to watch it.
Now, Miki and Todoroki are from Earth, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of
boring.
Yeah, it's kind of glazed over. You're kind of curious what's happening there right now, you know.
Yeah, what year do you think this is?
12,000
12,000 is Vampire Hunter D territory again? Blame and Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah, how far into the future? Or do you think it's an alternate reality?
I don't know.
Or is this a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away?
Do you think that JP and Spike Spiegel would get along pretty well?
Yeah.
Do you think that JP and Jotaro Kujo would get along pretty well?
I think Jotaro would think he was too cool.
He was too... You think that he would think that JP was too cool?
No, that he was too cool. That Jotaro himself was too cool.
Oh, he's too cool
JP.
to hang out with JP. Okay.
He thinks he's too focused on his cars, and probably thinks he's dumb for not realizing that his car keeps exploding.
Good grief.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time his car would explode, good grief.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Are there any other sort of moments or elements or bits of animation that really stood out to you?
I don't know. It was just all so trippy. Especially that last stretch of animation when they're barreling towards the finish line. And it seems like JP's car becomes 145 feet long.
Yeah.
And his legs are 100 of those feet. And his arms are 100 of those feet. And just everything is so stretched out. And you kind of get the feeling of the speed that they're going because you just see their eyelids are flapping and their tears are streaming down their face.
They definitely tried very hard to show how fast they were going.
Yeah, it was insanely fast. No human could take it without goggles. JP's just raw dog in that air. It's just
so gross.
His eyes are getting dried the F out.
Yeah, and the lips are peeling away from the gums.
Yeah, it's just that thing where it's
yeah, the G-force.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty rad.
I was really impressed when we're in the scene with JP in the hospital after the first fixed race, and he's with Frisbee, and Frisbee accidentally lets in a ton of reporters, and the way the reporters are kind of on top of each other and almost kind of bubbling over and sometimes cheek to cheek, and the way that whole mass is moving, I thought was so evocative of how overwhelming it is to have that many faces in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And, even when somebody stuck a camera out, it almost looked like there was an eye in the middle of the camera because of the way it was shining, which I think was very much on purpose.
Yeah.
And that whole visual of that was so great. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool little scene. And then he grabs the camera and shoves it in his own face.
Yeah.
I'm going to Redline. Great scene.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, very good.
I just told you how great I thought it was.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. Cool.
What did you think about the scene where JP and Anasi actually met as kids, but she doesn't remember, and she kind of insults him to be like, yeah, you don't get it, you bunch of fucking losers. You don't have the courage to come out here and race. Maybe that was his inspiration to become the racer that he became.
Is this a question?
What did you think of that scene? Did you like it?
I saw you writing stuff down at that scene, so I imagine that what you've just said is probably about what you wrote down.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of sweet because he was just she probably doesn't even remember, but that was such a formative moment for him, and he's been chasing her this whole time in terms of his career as a racer and in terms of, I guess, love later on, because then he actually got to know her a little bit, I guess, and he was like, oh,
and then immediately loves her.
You're such a babe.
Yeah, I think it's a nice sort of it feels very Repo to me. It kind of, I didn't get the impression that he knew her at the beginning. There's no kind of hint to be like, oh, maybe there's something there. And so it felt this like, oh, and by the way, you've decided that they have a backstory and that it was all the way back to this time. But I still thought it was effective. I think that those moments happen so much in people's lives where they don't realize how much somebody else has affected them. And those very formative moments really stick with the person who had that formation, that character formation. But for a lot of other people, those moments will like pass by really quickly. And so I thought that was very relatable. And I don't know that it's what led him to start racing, but we could certainly put those together.
Yeah, and I could also see how he would be more infatuated with her because he remembers her and like this is his, like, I guess, career crush and later on, like, I guess, romantic crush. But she falls in love with him like mad fast. Like I could see him being like, he's been about this lady for a long time, but he just returns her earring. She's like, love smooching in the zero gravity.
But then she has a moment where she's unsure about it, and then she talks to him more. I think she's immediately smitten, but I don't think she's immediately in love with him.
Do you think JP's a hottie?
I think his hair is dumb.
What?
I think his hair is so dumb.
I think his hair is fucking awesome.
Ridiculous.
His hair is so cool.
If it lost half of the length, it would still be ridiculous.
No, be the coolest thing. I think it needs to double in length.
No, you don't get to feel that way, Kat.
No, you're wrong. You're just wrong about it.
Okay.
It needs to be quadrupled.
Oh, was that another opinion you have? Well, it's wrong.
I mean, you know somebody with hair like that.
It's really not like that.
It really is.
If you were to animate him, it would be not even a quarter of the length and ridiculousness.
Yeah, well, also his shoes wouldn't be as dude. Everybody's shoes in this are clown shoes. That's one part of the animation that I did not like, is how everybody's shoes also seem to like breathe and pulsate when they're like pressing the pedals. I was just like, oh, these feet are fucking nasty. They all had enormous clown shoes. Hated that. Loved his hair.
Well, the shoes are fine.
Who has worse hair? JP, and we're going to go another Joe's Bizarre Adventure. JP or Polnareff?
JP.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Crazy.
It goes so far out away from his head. It's so stupid.
It's so cool. I enjoyed it very much. I felt like it definitely added to the coolness of his character.
It's like a massive like unicorn horn hair, but rounded off.
Yeah. Dope.
It's very clownish.
Love it. I don't know how you are saying that your friend's hair is not like that. It's so much like that.
It's like 6 times the length compared to his face.
Yeah.
And therefore nothing. It'd be like saying that somebody with like small spiked hair is just like somebody with fucking Liberty spikes.
Yeah. Just like that.
I genuinely don't have anything else to add about this movie.
Yeah, I don't think so for me either. Ready to crank it? Cranking that amp crank.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's a 6.
6 out of 11.
It's fine.
Okay.
the reason why it wouldn't have gotten like a 5 from me is because some of the animation stylistically I think is pretty brilliant, and some of the sound design is very good. Although, you also have those moments where the music is very hot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thematically empty. Kind of too much going on to be nonsense, but too much nonsense to know what's really going on. Would have enjoyed it more as a series if it had kind of explored some of the reasons why things happen. And often I kind of don't care if that stuff isn't built up, if I feel like thematically there's something going on, but it's like, pick a lane. Thank you.
I don't need to do it with my mouth anymore.
How about you?
I just want quick question before I crank mine. Do you think that this was better than Blame?
Yes.
Okay. I know that we talked about Blame quite a bit on this one, but I don't know, that movie's just like sticking with me for being kind of a miserable experience. With me anyway. I thought it was kind of just like miserable and joyless and whatever. But I am going to crank mine to fucking 10 out of 11.
I thought you were going to.
Yeah. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It entertained me. I was laughing during a lot of it just because of how fucking crazy and ridiculous it is. And I'm a fan of movies where you're just like eating popcorn and you're just like, whoa, cool. Oh, nice. Okay. I don't need like deep themes all the time in movies.
They don't have to be deep.
Yeah, they don't have to be at. I mean, like, I don't know. I find joy in simple plots and simple things happening. And
What's simple about it?
It's about a guy who wants to win a race. Like, at its core, it's about a dude that wants to win a race. And there's all this chaos happening around him.
I mean, that's like a one like sentence. So it's like saying Chihiro in Spirited Away just wants to find her parents,
Well, then he also has a girl, and then there's a robot world war. I don't know. I have the ability to turn off my brain and just like enjoy something wild and crazy happening in front of me. And it doesn't need to have like deeper meaning. Like, I'm happy to just be entertained sometimes.
I just feel like you're saying this as though it's directly against what you think I would enjoy. As in, like, I can't sit down and turn off my brain and just enjoy explosions and cool things. And I can only enjoy something if there's deeper themes.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
I mean, at least in terms of the things that we've talked about on this podcast, absolutely.
I can enjoy a pretty large range of things. I think it's unfair to say that I can't. It's like, well, she didn't enjoy it just because she has the inability to be able to do these things that I'm able to do in watching a movie.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Okay. Cool.
I don't know. I just I'm happy with it. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again and I would buy it because I just think it's like a fucking trippy, dumb guy movie, I guess. I don't know. I enjoy Mountain Dew. I enjoy Redline. This is a Mountain Dew movie. Like, this is the Monster Energy drink of movies.
Okay.
Would you agree with that assessment? Like, there's nothing
Sure.
nutritional in Monster Energy drinks, but it gets you fucking amped and going crazy. And that's what I felt like this movie was for me.
Yeah, I think there's something about this movie that's also really abstract, where you have to be able to just like look at shapes and interesting stylistic choices the way you would watch avant-garde.
Yeah, and I have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And apparently you don't.
Yeah. It's because you're better than me.
I'm not saying I'm better. I'm just saying that I can do it and you can't. It's not a matter of better or worse. It's a matter of I can and you can't.
It's a matter of ability.
You're unable to do this.
Well, that's our show.
That's our episode on Redline.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, follow us on Instagram at the Anime Movie Podcast. Check out the YouTube channel. Just look for the Anime Movie Podcast on YouTube. We put out clips of the show, and it has like visual elements to it and everything, and also full episodes of the podcast. If you want to reach us, the Anime Movie Podcast at gmail.com. And that will do it. Subscribe and rate and review and all that stuff too. Thank you for listening. This is Joe signing off. Goodbye.
and Kat signing off too.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Anime Movie Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the Anime Movie Podcast, and you can reach out via email at the Anime Movie Podcast at gmail.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and tell a friend. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.